Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today, I will be revisiting the Marvel 90s animated series. But first, hi. My name is Tyler, and for those newcomers, I love film. And today, I will be talking about the 90s Marvel cartoon series. First off is obviously X-Men the Animated Series. Out of all the series, this may arguably be the best. And it is undeniably the best when it comes to its stories. This show adapts basically every single X-Men storyline and all the good ones that were made up to the point of the 90s, even adapting some 90s things but making them, less bad. The show is full of complex thematic purpose, but it also has strong character and characterization. The characters in the show learn things, and the characters in the show have arcs. Slight arcs, though, since there's such a big roster. But it is still an entertaining superhero show, and also achieves its status as a great show because of how it uses character. And the stories always serve the characters and themes, with the villains being adapted perfectly, and the show's animation and action just being a lot of fun. X-Men the Animated Series is a well-rounded package. Overall, I give this show a 9.2 out of 10. The next series is Spiderman the Animated Series. This is the series of the Marvel 90s animated series that I feel to be the best. This and X-Men the Animated Series are both very close in quality. Even though this one feels more dated, I feel so much more nostalgia for this one every time I revisit it, and I feel that its characters are so much stronger than the X-Men the Animated Series, even if that show's villains, arcs, and storylines are much better. The two things that this show excels at most are characterization and emotional depth. Throughout the series, especially early on, we learn to deeply care about Peter Parker. We relate to him with his daily struggles, having to balance his Peter Parker life with the life of Spider-Man, which also, while adding emotional depth, is a perfect characterization of Spider-Man Peter Parker and his world and the challenges that he must face as a character. You get to learn people close to Peter Parker, and the show combines the best elements of the many interpretations of Spider-Man that were available at the time. We get a style much akin to the Kirby Lee era, with many of his classic characters like Harry Osborn, who's ripped straight from the pages, and many of the stories in this show are just Stan Lee and Steve Ditko comics adapted for a more modern time. But it also adapts a more 70s Jerry Conway Peter Parker, adding in some 80s Roger Stern, and really just putting in some 90s flair. All of the characters have distinct personalities and goals, and face individual challenges differently, which allows them to grow, especially Peter Parker, who, facing as many villains and losing so many people, including Mary Jane, is able to, throughout the show, grow as a character. I give this show a 9.4 out of 10. In my opinion, it can even stand toe-to-toe at times with Batman the Animated Series. The next animated series I'll be talking about, and I'm pretty sure I'm going in chronological order, is the Fantastic Four animated series that debuted in 1994 as part of the Marvel's Action Hour alongside Marvel's Iron Man show, or Iron Man the Animated Series, as it is known. The Fantastic Four show is a very bland, by-the-numbers action cartoon. I don't think it's all bad, but it definitely isn't great. It doesn't have standout characters, characterization, emotional depth, thematic purpose, character arcs, character development, stories, a good plot, or really just anything entertaining. It's not bad, and it does feature some of Marvel's best heroes in supporting roles, including Daredevil and Ghost Rider, and there are some good episodes here and there. But overall, this series is easily the most boring of all of these. I give this show a 6.5 out of 10. Iron Man the Animated Series is a very peculiar show and also has an excellent intro for its second season, but that's besides the point. It seems to have gathered a cult status, with many people adoring this series. I don't think it's very good. It's bland like the Fantastic Four series, but unlike that series, it is entertaining. It's very weird, very wacky, very lazy, very dumb, and does not have much story, character development, or, anything too special. But the show gets the job done, and I respect it for that. I give the show 6.8 out of 10. The Incredible Hulk animated series, I think, is the most underrated series of the Marvel 90s animated series. Though not being Hulk's first cartoon outing, or his first cartoon in general, it is easily overall its best, with the beginning actually being a very true Hulk story. Being a military thriller, it grapples with the body horror elements and just psychological terror of the Hulk, while still being an action-packed and entertaining series that does go into some deeper territories and offer some spectacle. It also has some fun supporting character cameos, and sadly loses steam as it gets farther into its runtime. But I still like the show, and I give it a 7.4 out of 10. The Silver Surfer animated series is, to my surprise, pretty good. Even though its CG can be very dated, its story is actually compelling, tragic, and even at times deep. It ventures into a cosmic, operatic story. And like I said before, it's deep and actually has character. But this show has the substance it needs, but not the style, which I mean by that entertainment value, which is really the show's only downfall, in that it wasn't able to, be let off the leash and really do what it could have done and be used to its full potential. But overall, pretty freaking good. I give the show an 8 out of 10. In the late 90s, when Marvel Comics was in ruin and starting to go bankrupt, and they started to auction off their characters' movie rights to completely different studios, which they are now only being able to retrieve, the Marvel Comics Animation Corporation decided to make an Avengers show without the core Avengers. You see, something that most people don't know is the only Marvel Comics characters that were really considered A-list that are popular now were Spiderman and the Fantastic Four. And then once the animated series came along and Chris Claremont's X-Men run, then the X-Men were considered Marvel A-list characters. But the Avengers, no. Even though the Hulk was popular and Captain America was always in the public conscience, Iron Man and Thor were nobodies. Any other Avengers that you would mention, like the Wasp or Black Widow, Ant-Man, people had no idea. And as proven later, before the actual release of the Avengers movie, the Avengers can be a great team and have a great series. Fortunately, this show was not that. With many core Avengers being introduced in other series, including Captain America, who had a canceled animated series that I would have wanted to see, because that probably would have been interesting, this show is set in the future, where most of the Avengers are dead, gone, or just not there, except for Captain America, who set up this new team to fight foes, with the appearance of Ultron. And I gotta tell you, the appearance of Captain America and Ultron in this show are very underwhelming, and the team is completely uninteresting. You are uninvested in everything about this team. They do nothing interesting. It is not a good show. Doesn't have a great storyline or great characters overall, and it's very boring to watch. So this is easily the worst of the Marvel 90s animated series, and I give it a 4.9 out of 10. Spiderman Unlimited is a very interesting show, feeling so unnecessary and 90s, and also so disconnected from the formerly established Peter Parker. The story of the show is so pointless, even though it does have a few standout episodes, and can be fun if you turn your mind off. After all, this was the first Spider-Man series I ever watched, being the first time I was ever exposed to Spider-Man, along with the Ultimate Spider-Man series, which I will get to eventually. Believe that. This show really isn't that good, and pales in comparison to the original Spider-Man the Animated Series, and just has weak characters, motivation, and lacks a central concept that becomes uninteresting the more the show drags on. This show isn't all bad, but I give this show a 6 out of 10.